Welcome to 24 KEIRUS. I'm Kelly Johnson, the founder and CEO of KEIRUS by KJE. We're a strategy consulting leadership development firm specializing in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space. We are back for another conversation about employee resource groups with Dameka Stringer. So welcome back, Dameka. Thanks so much for being here with us.
My pleasure.
Yes. So we had a great conversation about just really, I call it foundation setting. What are employee resource groups? Because not all organizations have them, but quite a few do. So we talked about what is an ERG or BRG, and then we also began the conversation about the benefits of ERGs, and I think we probably realized that list is long, and we only got to scratch the surface, but I do want to pick back up and in our research and what we've been able to find over the years, it's estimated that about 90% of Fortune 500 companies have ERGs. So larger organizations are pretty well versed in this space. But what have you seen in terms of ERGs and their ability to promote diversity? Let's start with diversity first, and then we'll talk about inclusion.
Yeah. So I think the promotion of diversity with employee resource groups, it's really inherently a part of the journey, right? So, ERGs play a huge part, as I mentioned, if really structured properly as a strategic partner. So for example, when we talk about promoting diversity, they are partnering closely with different business functions in the HR space, from talent acquisition to talent management, to have real conversations when it comes to making data-driven decisions, and where we see lack of representation, at certain levels. And when I define diversity in this, for this segment here, I'm speaking directly to race and gender and so forth. And so they play a huge part in helping to provide insights, right? So we think about organizations that have pulse surveys or, focus groups, so they're trying to really understand and kind of dig deep and understand what's happening with different demographics, diverse demographics. Well, your employee resource groups are essentially that. They're sitting. I hope this doesn't sound horrible, but if you don't leverage them the way you should leverage them, they can be like these sitting ducks, and they're full of expertise because they represent that particular culture and demographic. So, and their ears are to the ground, their boots on the ground. So you don't necessarily have to continue to run pulse surveys and try to figure out, what's happening. You go straight to these groups. You have conversations about that very topic, promoting diversity and so forth. So it happens in many ways. It's partnerships with the HR functions, having conversations about representation, having conversations about how they can play a significant part in helping to recruit talent, playing a significant part in helping to move talent along. In the organization. Many employee resource groups develop mentor programs. Many are working towards helping to play a part in supporting or helping to create sponsorship programs. So that's also helping in promoting diversity. So just a host of things. And also too, from an educational perspective, really helping in partnership with the organization, helping the employee community really understand the business case for diversity, the why, and why it's so important, not just from a professional perspective, but also from a personal perspective, the human case for diversity. Yes. I think that is so critical. And I don't think we talk about that a lot. I think we talk about a lot of the right things, right? In terms of the business case and the business imperative and why this is so important to attracting, developing, and retaining talent and all of these great things. But they also represent the face. They represent the human case, in terms of promoting diversity. And I think that is so critical to really understand how the diversity that you have in your organization is experiencing the organization, because we are all experiencing it differently. And so it's so important to recognize that we all have different experiences, and then addressing those, because again, that all ties to the business of the organization in attracting, developing, retaining, engaging, employee engagement, employee satisfaction, employee turnover. It's all connected. The dots are all there. So I think they play a critical part, in promoting diversity. And then also too, from an educational standpoint, really helping to educate the organization and understanding what diversity is, right? So organizations are having, continuous conversations about what is diversity, right? All the dimensions of diversity. But they have a really great way of bringing the conversation down to a certain level and meeting people where they are. To really help them understand that we all play a part in this journey. We all have a seat at the table, and really helping to unpack, when we say diversity, what that means, all the dimensions of diversity. And I think that's important. Yeah, and I think that's important because I think, some groups, Kelly, and of course you, as the expert that you are, there are some groups that feel like they don't have a place in this conversation, and they really do. They have a huge place. So I've been in conversations with employee resource groups where they had educational sessions and so forth, and compelling tough panels or discussions, and they talk about things like that. So I think just a host of approaches that they take really help to promote diversity. And I think my last point is not just to promote diversity, but to value diversity, to respect diversity, and not to just tolerate diversity, because that's an important piece, a really important piece that employees can see through. And so, of course, that also ties to employee engagement and retention, and employees really believing, because the proof is in the pudding, that this organization is truly committed to diversity.
Right. That's so rich, Dameka. And as I'm hearing you talk, I'm reminded of my own experience in corporate America. This was pretty early in my career, long before ERGs were as popular as they are today. And I remember having a conversation with a senior executive, the SVP of marketing, about a marketing piece we were about to put out. I hadn't even entered into the HR and DEI space in my career yet. I was still in my kind of marketing career path. And so I was a part of the marketing organization, and we were about to roll out this major campaign. It was going to hit literally 15 million people. It was something that we would mail, and it would go to 15 million people. And I remember looking at the cover artwork, and I'm like, this visual doesn't look like our customer base. And yet we're about to go out, we're about to go to press. And you can imagine the cost of something that we print 15 million quantities of, right? And I said something about it, and I was really concerned about the messaging, the headline. It was tying in kind of America, and the visual was really almost saying that this picture is America. That was the gist. That was sort of the tone of the piece, and I was very concerned. about it. And so I had to say something, and we stopped the press. It went to the CMO of the organization. We made some edits to the artwork so that it was a better reflection of the customer base. But that was a risky move. And at the time, I didn't have an employee resource group to partner with, to share my concerns with, so that we could collectively say, hey, we have thoughts and ideas about the way this company markets itself. And, we want to make sure that we're being as diverse and inclusive in the way that we try to engage customers. And so fast forward many years later, when I am a part of an organization that has them, I've seen ERGs go to the marketing department and say, hey, let's feature a model or a talent, an actor that has a different ability, a visibly different ability. And the power, the win, the engagement from employees, whether they had different abilities or not, but the pride that employees felt when we, for the first time as a company, featured someone with a visible difference. And that all came from the work of an ERG working together versus someone having to have that conversation alone, but really being able to approach the conversation in a comprehensive, holistic way to advocate for diverse communities. So I appreciate what you shared, because it allowed me to see the evolution even in my own career of what it's like to be alone versus what it's like in the power of we, which is what we talk about a lot at KEIRUS. What can we accomplish together? So yeah, thank you for that.
So powerful, that gave me chills. It's so powerful. I like to call people like you, we often talk about, creating a safe space, but it really takes, to be a diversity, equity, and inclusion practitioner, it really takes courage, to be a positive disruptor, right? You can disrupt, and be positive, right? Because it's educating, right? Organizations, many people, we're humans, called humanity. We have blind spots. We have unconscious bias. We see the world as we are. We're looking through different lenses, and so it takes a person to be at that table, and you were at that table, and you were like, wait a minute, right?
Right.
And that takes a lot. A lot of people don't realize that. It takes a lot, to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but then to be in the moment of it and see, business happening, decisions, policies being made, practices being, implemented, and being the sole person, because we recognize a lot of people probably are thinking it, but they're not saying anything. And so you need that brave, courageous voice to be a positive disruptor, to say, hey, let's think about this for a second. Is this really what we want to, put out there, to our consumers? Is this really a reflection? Because the world that I live in, and many people live in, we sort of live in a global community, and this really isn't reflective of that. And so, having that conversation and being that disruptor is critical.
Thank you for that. And I love the way you summarize things. Like, I love how you've talked about individual leaders and the human case and the positive disruptor. So this has been yet another great conversation. We'll have to pick up the inclusion piece in our next time together, Dameka, but this has been just a great opportunity to really explore how employee resource groups can promote diversity, promote the business case and the human case, as you say. So thank you so much, Dameka, for sharing with us. And I want to thank all of you for tuning in to another episode of 24 KEIRUS. We are so committed to partnering with you to help you live a full commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion 24 hours, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Thanks so much for tuning in.